Planning the city's future used to mean putting the brakes on decline and flight to the suburbs. More recently, there's been a focus on growth with more attention to sharing benefits and avoiding displacement. That's the purpose of the draft plan recently released by the city, Imagine Boston 2030. To tell us about the draft and the next steps in the planning is the executive director of Imagine Boston, Rebekah Emanuel. Thank you very much for being with us, Rebekah.
Thank you for having me.
So we have a growing population, and of course one of the central things in this draft so far is growth versus no growth. So talk about why we need to embrace the growth in some way.
Absolutely. So Boston, as you said, has really become a magnet for people, not only in Boston, but from far afield. We have lots of people moving to Boston, and actually our growth as a city has doubled that of the nation in the past 5 years. So Boston's a place many people are choosing to be their home. And it's an incredible opportunity for the city of Boston. How do we guide that growth to be as beneficial as possible for all of our residents? And so one of the things that we can think about really is, where do we grow and how do we make that as productive as possible? And so part of what Imagine Boston does is it outlines 3 areas in the city where we can grow and where you would think about growing differently. So those are our existing neighborhoods, our job centers, and then the sort of edges in between our existing neighborhoods.
Well, I know there's some people in Boston who might think that their neighborhood is even a bit better than it used to be, and it's fine the way it is. So if you don't have growth, what's wrong with that?
So one of the things that we're very aware of is that if you have increasing demand but no increasing housing, where that puts the sort of squeeze is many of our renters end up facing higher prices, and many of our homeowners, especially those on fixed income, end up getting sort of priced out or just having more constrained pricing. We know that that's already facing many of our residents because while our incomes are about the same as the nation, our housing prices are about 2.6 times as high. And so one of the ways that you can try and make sure that we want to make sure every neighborhood is affordable. One of the ways that we can do that is we can make sure that there's enough places for everyone to live. We can also try and make sure that we put in place policies that help ensure affordability for more and more of our residents.
Now, in general, it makes a lot of sense to have more growth, more housing supply. But when you look up close, there are a lot of neighborhoods that say this new stuff, it's driving up the market around it, and it's displacing people. What do you do about that?
So the mayor has been incredibly proactive on anti-displacement, and they've actually put together one of the things that you'll see coming out in the Imagine Boston document is an anti-displacement policy package. The mayor also was the first in the nation to announce a new Office of Housing Stability, which we're really proud of. And so there's a strong focus on making sure that our neighborhoods, no matter how we grow, are able to benefit our existing communities.
Well, there are some things that the administration is working on. This is not just about tall buildings downtown that are extremely pricey. You've got some things even involving the area from Franklin Park to the South Boston waterfront. So talk about that.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're really excited to be talking about and putting our focus on is on completing a 100-year-old vision that Olmsted had around the Emerald Necklace, completing the path between Franklin Park, which is one of our largest parks. It's in the geographic heart of the city, and is also it serves a lot of neighborhoods that have historically been underserved. It's also one of the parks that is the same size approximately as the entire downtown of the city of Boston. And so connecting Franklin Park to the waterfront, and doing so would actually complete the Emerald Necklace. And we think of that as an incredible benefit, both in terms of providing this sort of ability to have park space in areas that have not had as vibrant park spaces, but also as an active transportation corridor. And one of the things that we'll be doing in the next week or two is actually touring the route of the completion of the Emerald Necklace with any residents who want to come and talk with leadership from City Hall about what they would be interested in seeing there along that route of completion of the Emerald Necklace.
We're talking with Rebekah Emanuel from Imagine Boston 2030. Rebekah, another thing going on here is we have this income divide. It's very much racially adjusted as well. And I'm looking here, your report talks about living wage jobs. How do we get more of those? How do you see that at least in the plan?
Yeah, so we are very focused on making sure that there is both living wage jobs for all Bostonians and a strong ability to have income mobility. And one of the things that we also know is that there's a big divide between income and wealth. So you see even starker divides across our city along the side of wealth. And so one of the things that we're focusing on is making sure that our education system actually is able to be a pipeline directly into living wage jobs, and that, say, 6 years out of high school, graduates from our school systems are able to get a living wage job in the city of Boston. We're also thinking a lot about how to make sure that there are good jobs in our neighborhood, so that everyone who sort of lives in a neighborhood has access to good jobs either there or in proximate job centers.
Well, access means transportation, and as it is right now in Boston, there's been so much growth that, as you know, there's more gridlock if you're driving a car. So how do you work that out?
So we sort of think about transportation as one of these things that's a core bedrock of the city. We think about it in sort of 3 ways. First of all, if you want to address transportation, you need to make sure that people are able to get between where they live and where they work. And you can do that in 3 ways. Either you can make sure that there are more jobs close to where people work. More jobs close to where people live. You can sort of make it easier to live close to where you work, or you can do a better job making it easy and reliable to get between where you live and where you work. And we don't think it's one of those 3. We actually think it is all of those 3. And you'll see strategies around each one of those in the plan. So for example, on the Fairmount corridor, which is one of the focus areas of the Imagine Boston plan, you'll both see initiatives to try and increase the amount of jobs in areas like Reedville or Newmarket-Woodette, and you'll see interest in sort of increasing the accessibility and reliability between neighborhoods in the Fairmount corridor and our traditional job centers in the downtown.
One thing I worry about a little bit with the ramifications for zoning here is that if you are more permissive in the zoning, allowing for more density or height, doesn't that mean trading away some of the leverage that we had for getting community benefits, such as money for affordable housing or job training?
Yeah, so there's a lot of focus right now on making sure that there is enough affordable housing, there is enough job training, and you'll see a lot of those initiatives laid out in the Imagine Boston document. So there's sort of 3 big ways that we think about affordable housing overall. We think about both increasing the amount of supply so that demand is not as constrained. We think about putting in place proactive measures to ensure that a lot of our housing remains affordable. And then we also are thinking about what are the places where it's not a simple profit motive, but there are other structures in place that make sure that we have housing for people for whom market rate housing will not work.
We should mention there's a lot more to go with this process, including some visits around the neighborhood. So anything you want to let people know about that?
Yeah, so we're absolutely thrilled to be inviting residents to come out and basically talk in a casual setting with city leaders on a wide range of different venues. So we're actually going to be taking a ferry tour of the waterfront with residents who want to talk about what is the future of the waterfront. How can Boston really take advantage of this incredible space that we have.
And get ready for climate change too, right?
And getting ready for climate change will be a hot topic and one that we are actively thinking about, and we'll be able to sort of talk through what that means specifically in different parts of the city. We'll also ride the Fairmount line with chiefs and talk about the Fairmount corridor, and we will take that route from Franklin Park all the way to the waterfront and talk about different points on the edge. And we'll take a walking tour of Dudley as well and talk about economic mobility and innovation in that area. So we would love to have any and all people who have ideas for what this could look like in the future. That's really the topic of conversation.
Plus you have the website where people can check out the plan and keep up?
Yes, the plan is thick. It's about 300 pages. And so one of the things we've done is we've taken basically the core themes and made it easy to click through online, so you can just get one sentence plus a key picture and get the entirety of the document that way.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Rebekah Emanuel from Imagine Boston 2030. We'll have more news in just a moment.